Jake Morrison walked into the huge meeting room with slow, careful steps. His black shoes made soft sounds on the smooth metal floor. The room was bigger than anything he had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling stretched up so high that he could barely see the top. Strange lights hung in the air without any wires or chains to hold them up. Dot around the room stood 12 different kinds of alien beings. Each one looked completely different from the others. Some were tall, some were short, some had skin that looked like crystal, others had fur or scales. A few had too many arms, and one had no arms at all. But they all had one thing in common. They were all looking down at Jake like he was something dirty they had found on their shoes. Jake had been chosen to speak for all humans. He was not the strongest or the smartest, but he was good at talking to people. He had spent his whole life helping different groups of people work together. Now he had to try to make peace with beings from other worlds. The trip to this place had taken 3 months. Jake had flown farther from Earth than any human before him. He left behind his wife and 2 young children. He left behind his small house with the blue door and the garden where he grew tomatoes. He left behind everything he knew and loved because his people needed him to try to make peace. But the aliens did not want peace. They wanted humans to obey them like pets. "You cannot be serious," said the Zephyrian, who stood in front of all the others. His body was made of something that looked like blue glass. When he talked, his whole body glowed brighter. "You want us to treat your kind as equals? Humans have only been flying in space for 200 years. We have ruled the stars for thousands of years." Jake kept his hands behind his back so the aliens could not see them shake. He was not scared, but he was angry, very angry. "We only ask for what every thinking being should have, the right to live free in our own space. Your big machines are destroying our colonies. Your trade rules are making our people starve on the outer worlds." A huge bug-like creature made a sound like laughing. His name was Kexnai, and he was bigger than 3 humans put together. His eyes were like black mirrors, and his mouth had parts that moved like scissors. Maybe if your people had grown up past your simple feelings, you would understand how things work. The strong rule, the weak serve. This is the way it has always been in the galaxy. Jake took a deep breath. He thought about his daughter Lucy, who was only 8 years old. She had cried when he left for this trip. She had asked him why the aliens did not like humans. He had told her that sometimes people were mean because they were scared. But now he was not sure that was true. These aliens were not scared. They just thought humans were less than them. "We have tried to be fair," Jake said. His voice was steady, but inside he felt like a storm was building. "We offered to share our technology. We offered to trade with you. We offered to work together. But every time we try to be nice, you tell us we must bow down to you." A snake-like creature with purple skin moved closer to Jake. Her name was Chancellor Viridios, and she was the leader of a whole empire. When she moved, her long body made soft sounds on the floor. Her eyes were yellow and had no kindness in them. "That is because bowing down is all you are good for," she said. Her voice sounded like wind through dead leaves. "We have studied your history. We know what you really are. You are fighters and killers. You destroyed your own planets, air, and water. You fight wars over everything. You are like a disease that spreads wherever it goes. We must keep you controlled." Jake felt something hot rise up in his chest. All his life, he had worked to help people solve problems without fighting. All his life, he had believed that talking was better than violence. His own grandfather had fought in a terrible war and had told Jake that war was the worst thing that could happen to people. But these aliens would not listen to words. They had already decided that humans were evil. "Then let me tell you something," Jake said. His voice was quiet, but everyone in the room could hear him clearly. "Let me give you one warning. Something my people learned a long time ago. Never make us angry." The aliens made different sounds. Some clicked, some hissed, some made noises like birds, but they were all laughing at him. "We have been angry for a very long time," Jake continued. "Angry at ourselves, angry at what we used to do to each other. We spent hundreds of years learning how to control that anger. We learned to talk instead of fight. We learned to build instead of destroy. We learned to help instead of hurt. The crystal alien's body became brighter, like he was very amused. Are you trying to scare us, little human? Your whole space navy has maybe 50 ships. We control millions of ships and thousands of worlds. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some were curious now. They had stopped laughing and were listening to what he said. I am not trying to scare you, Jake said. I am trying to warn you. There is a big difference. What difference? Asked Kex9. He moved his bug legs and made scraping sounds on the floor. Jake was quiet for a moment. He thought about all the history books he had read. He thought about all the wars humans had fought. He thought about all the terrible things his people had done to each other over the centuries. And he thought about how hard they had worked to become better. The difference is this, Jake said finally. We have been fighting our whole existence to not be monsters. Every human child learns about the bad things we did in the past. Every human child learns to be better than that. We built laws and rules and ways of thinking that help us control the dark parts of ourselves. He paused and looked directly at each alien leader. But you are not attacking our armies or our leaders. You are destroying our farms and our schools. You are killing our children and our grandparents. You are attacking everything we built to prove we are better than we used to be. The room became very quiet. Even the strange humming sounds from the alien machines seemed to get softer. You want to see what humans are like when we stop trying to be good, Jake asked. You want to see what happens when we stop fighting against our nature and start fighting for our survival. Chancellor Viridios moved her snake-like body nervously. You are just one small species. What could you possibly do to us? Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that made people feel cold inside. You are about to find out, he said. You have studied our history, but you learned the wrong lesson. You saw our wars and our violence and thought that made us weak. But you did not understand the most important thing about humans. What is that? Asked the crystal alien. We are very good at learning, Jake said, and we learn best when we are angry. When you hurt us, we study you. We figure out how you think, how you fight, what scares you, and then we become better at hurting you than you ever were at hurting us. Jake turned to leave, but then he stopped and looked back at the alien leaders one more time. You still have time to stop this, he said. You can still choose to treat us as equals. You can still choose peace. But if you keep pushing us, if you keep trying to destroy us, you will learn why we had to spend so many years learning to control ourselves. Because the thing we were controlling was not weakness, Jake said as he walked toward the door. It was something much, much worse. The door closed behind him with a soft sound, leaving the alien leaders alone in their great meeting room. For the first time in many years, they were not sure they had made the right choice. Captain Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the worst thing she had ever seen. On the big screen in front of her, the planet New Denver was dying. The world that had been home to over 2 million people was now covered in fire and smoke. The alien ships had attacked it for 3 hours, shooting it with giant weapons until nothing was left alive. Lisa had grown up on New Denver. She remembered the blue lakes and the tall mountains. She remembered the smell of fresh bread from the bakery where her mother used to take her. She remembered the sound of children playing in the parks. Now, all of that was gone forever. Captain, said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his station nearby. His face was very pale, and his hands shook as he worked. We are getting reports from other human worlds. The aliens are attacking everywhere. Harmony Station is gone. New Lagos is gone. All the farming colonies near Centauri are gone. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. These were not military targets. These were homes where families lived. Places where people grew food and raised children and tried to live peaceful lives. Commander Ryan Torres, her second in command, looked at the numbers on his screen. They are not trying to capture the planets. They are just killing everyone. Every man, woman, and child. The bridge became very quiet except for the humming of the ship's engines. On the screen, they could see the emergency messages coming from all over human space. People were calling for help. People were saying goodbye to their families. People were dying. Lisa thought about her own family. Her parents lived on Earth in a small town near the ocean. Her sister had 3 young children. Her brother worked on Mars in one of the mining stations. Were they safe? Were they already dead? Captain Ben's voice cracked when he spoke. I have a message coming from the Galactic Council. They want to talk to us. Put it on the screen. The image changed to show the meeting room where Jake Morrison had tried to make peace just 3 months ago. But now there was only one alien. There, it was Kex-9, the giant bug creature. His black mirror eyes seemed to shine with happiness. To all humans everywhere, he began. His voice was translated by machines, but Lisa could hear the hate in it. Your species has been judged to be dangerous to the peace of the galaxy. You grow too fast. You spread too quickly. You will not accept your proper place as servants, so we have decided that you must all die. Lisa's hands made fists at her sides. She watched the alien's mouth parts move as he talked about killing her people like they were nothing more than insects. We will destroy every human world, Kex-9 continued. We will kill every human man, woman, and child. We will burn your cities and your farms. We will make sure that no trace of your species remains anywhere in the galaxy. This is not cruelty. This is necessary cleaning. The message ended, and the screen went back to showing the burning planet below them. Lisa turned to look at her crew. She saw her own anger reflected in their faces. These were good people who had joined the Space Navy to explore new worlds and protect human colonies. They had never expected to see their own people being murdered by the millions. What are your orders, Captain? Ryan asked quietly. Lisa was quiet for a moment. She thought about all the rules and laws that governed how civilized people were supposed to behave. She thought about the treaties that said you could not attack civilians. She thought about the codes of honor that said you should show mercy to your enemies. But the aliens had thrown away all of those rules. They had decided that humans did not deserve to live. Send a message to Fleet Command, Lisa said. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt like a fire was burning. Tell them to begin Protocol 7. Everyone on the bridge looked at each other. Protocol 7 was something they had learned about in training, but no one had ever expected it to be used. It was the complete change of human civilization from peaceful to military. It meant that every human everywhere would stop what they were doing and focus on only one thing: war. Captain, Ben said carefully, Protocol 7 needs permission from the president and all the military leaders. It will take hours to get approval through the normal channels. Then we will not wait for normal channels, Lisa replied. They want to see what humans are like when we are angry. They want to see what we become when someone tries to kill our families. So we will show them. She walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each member of her crew. For 200 years, we have been the nice guys, she said. We explored space to find new homes, not to conquer other people. We tried to make friends with aliens, not enemies. We followed rules and tried to be civilized. Lisa's voice became harder, but being civilized only works when the other side is civilized too. The aliens have shown us that they think being nice is the same as being weak. They think our desire for peace means we cannot fight. She pointed at the screen where New Denver continued to burn. They just killed 2 million of our people. Children who were playing in schools, old people who were sitting in their gardens, mothers and fathers who were just trying to take care of their families. And they did it because they think we will not fight back. Ryan stepped forward. What are your orders, Captain? Send messages to every human ship, every human colony, every human settlement, Lisa said. Tell them that the age of being nice is over. Tell them that the aliens have declared war on our entire species. Tell them that we are no longer bound by the rules of civilized warfare. Ben looked worried. Captain, if we abandon the rules of war, what does that make us? Lisa looked at him with eyes that had become very cold. It makes us alive, Lieutenant. The aliens have made it clear that this is not a war for territory or resources. This is a war for survival. Either they live or we live. There is no middle ground. She walked over to the communications station. I want you to send a special message to Tell them to open the sealed archive. Tell them to find every piece of information we have about each alien species. I want to know what they eat, how they breathe, what their weaknesses are, and what scares them most. Captain, Ryan said, that information is classified. Most of it was gathered by our spy networks. Using it would be considered. I do not care what it would be considered, Lisa interrupted. The aliens have decided to exterminate us. They have decided that we do not deserve to exist. So we are going to show them what humans are really capable of when our backs are against the wall. She turned to look at the tactical display that showed the positions of alien fleets across the galaxy. There were thousands of enemy ships, and they controlled most of the inhabited worlds. By any reasonable measure, humanity was completely outmatched, but Lisa was no longer thinking about reasonable measures. You know what the aliens never understood about us? She asked her crew. They looked at our history and saw all the wars we fought against each other. They saw the weapons we built and the cities we destroyed. They thought that made us primitive and stupid. She smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator. But they missed the most important lesson. We did not become peaceful because we were weak. We became peaceful because we were too good at being violent. We learned to control ourselves because we knew what we were capable of when we let go of that control. Lisa walked back to her command chair and sat down. The aliens want to see what humans are like when we stop holding back. They want to see what we become when we stop trying to be better than our ancestors. She looked at the burning planet on the screen one more time. Contact all human forces, she said. Tell them that the gloves are off. Tell them that we are no longer trying to be the good guys. Tell them that we are going to show the galaxy why our ancestors were so feared that we had to spend centuries learning to be different. The crew began working at their stations, sending out the messages that would change everything. And tell them one more thing, Lisa added. Tell them that the aliens made one fatal mistake. They should have killed us all at once, before we had time to get angry. The bridge hummed with activity as the crew prepared for a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Outside, the stars looked the same as they always had, but everything else was about to change. General Jex Prime stood in his command center deep inside the Corvin home world. The room was filled with screens and machines that showed him everything happening in the war. 6 months had passed since the aliens had started killing humans, and something was very wrong. The general was old, even for his kind. He had lived through many wars and had never lost a single battle. His forearms moved quickly over the control panels as he studied the latest reports. His compound eyes, which could see in many directions at once, focused on the numbers that made no sense. How many ships did we lose in the Vega star system? He asked his aide, a younger Corvin named Quetzalcoatl. 17 of our biggest warships and 43 destroyers, sir, the aide replied. His voice shook with confusion. The humans used a new way of fighting. They call it ramming speed. They made their ships go very fast and crashed them into our vessels. Jex Prime's mouthparts clicked together in the way his people showed they were upset. That is suicide. No smart species would throw away their ships and crews like that. That is what we thought too, sir. But the humans think about it differently. They call these attacks honor kills. The pilots who died doing this are called heroes. Their news broadcasts tell the story of every pilot who dies this way. They make songs about them. The general looked at the big display that showed where all the enemy ships were located. When the war started, humans had maybe 50 small ships. Now there were hundreds of human vessels, and each one seemed more dangerous than the last. Where are they getting all these ships? Jex Prime demanded. We are not sure, sir. Our spies say they have changed their whole society to make weapons. Factories that used to make cars now make fighter ships. Space stations that used to mine rocks now build destroyers. They have even put weapons on their cargo ships. A new report appeared on the screen, and all of the general's eyes went wide. They are attacking our home systems now. Yes, sir. A human fleet appeared near our homeworld 3 hours ago. They went around all our defenses. We think they have been sending spy ships to map our territory for months. Ships we never even saw. The general's claws scraped against his metal chair. This was impossible. The humans were supposed to be beaten by now. They were supposed to be extinct. What about our allies? How are the other species doing in this war? Quetzalcoatl looked at his notes, and his voice became very quiet. The Zephyrians have lost contact with their 7th fleet. The Viridians are reporting that many of their ships have been destroyed in the Outer Rim battles. And sir, the humans have done something terrible to the Aquarian homeworld. What do you mean? They have changed how the planet moves around its sun. The Aquarians live in water, and they need their ocean tides to stay alive. The humans somehow moved the planet's moon, and now the tides are all wrong. Billions of Aquarians are dying because their seas are going crazy. Jex Prime was quiet for a long time. He had studied many different species over his long life. He understood how most aliens thought and fought, but this was something new. How do they even know to do such things? He asked. Intelligence reports say they have studied every species in the galaxy very carefully. They know our weaknesses. They know our biology. They know how our societies work. They are not just fighting us. They are specifically attacking what makes each species most vulnerable. The general stood up from his chair and walked to the big window that looked out over his home city. Below him, millions of his people went about their daily lives. They did not know that the war was going badly. They did not know that the humans had become something terrifying. Sir, his aide said carefully, there is something else. The humans have sent us a message. What kind of message? It is from a human military leader named Colonel Pete Williams. He is broadcasting from a huge human warship that is currently orbiting our home world. He says he wants to talk. Jex Prime turned around slowly. A human ship was orbiting his planet. How had it gotten past all their defenses? Put him on the screen. The main display flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a human face. Colonel Pete Williams was an older man with gray hair and scars across his face. His eyes were very cold, like winter ice. Behind him, they could see the bridge of his ship, where other humans worked at their stations. General Jex Prime, the human said. His voice was calm, but there was something dangerous underneath it. I think it is time. We had a conversation. You are in violation of our space, the general replied. Your ship will be destroyed if you do not leave immediately. Pete smiled, but it was not a nice smile. With what ships? General, we destroyed your orbital defense platforms 2 hours ago. We disabled your planetary shields. Right now, we could turn your entire world into a ball of fire, and there is nothing you could do to stop us. The general looked at his aide, who checked his instruments and nodded. It was true. Somehow, the humans had gotten past everything. What do you want? Jex Prime asked. I want to show you something, Pete said. The image on the screen changed to show space around the Corvin homeworld. There were dozens of human ships, all pointing their weapons at the planet below. 6 months ago, you decided to exterminate my species, Pete continued. You said we were too dangerous to live, you said. We were violent barbarians who needed to be wiped out. The image changed again, showing the burned remains of human colonies, the destroyed homes and schools, the dead bodies floating in space. You killed our children. You murdered our families. You destroyed everything we had built over 2 centuries of space exploration. Pete's voice became colder. But you made one big mistake. You thought that because we chose to be peaceful, it meant we did not know how to be violent. You thought that because we followed rules, it meant we were weak. The general's mouthparts clicked nervously. What are you saying? I am saying that you never understood what human peace really was, Pete replied. You see, every human child learns about our history. We learn about the wars we fought on our home world. We learn about the terrible weapons we built. We learn about all the cruel things we did to each other. The image changed to show scenes from human history. Ancient battles, destroyed cities, weapons that could kill millions of people. We became peaceful not because we were naturally good, Pete continued. We became peaceful because we were naturally very good at killing. We learned to control ourselves because we knew what happened when we did not. Jex Prime felt a chill run through his body. You are talking about returning to your primitive ways. No, Pete said. We are talking about using everything we learned from our primitive ways, plus everything we have learned since then. The screen split to show 2 images. On one side was Earth, with its cities and parks and schools. On the other side was a human warship, bristling with weapons. "You attacked our civilization," Pete said. "You attacked the part of us that learned to be better. You attacked our children and our teachers and our artists. You tried to destroy everything we built to prove that we could be more than just killers." His voice became very quiet, but somehow more frightening. "So we have decided to stop trying to be more than killers. We have decided to show you what humans are like when we stop holding back." "This is madness," the general said. "No," Pete replied. "This is mathematics. You have 13 billion people on your home world. We have weapons that can kill them all in about 6 minutes. You have fleets scattered across 50 star systems. We have studied your positions and your weaknesses. We can destroy all of them." The human leaned forward, and his cold eyes seemed to look right through the screen. "But we are not going to kill you quickly. That would be too merciful. Instead, we are going to do to you what you tried to do to us." "What do you mean?" "We are going to take apart your entire civilization, piece by piece. We are going to destroy your colonies one by one. We are going to hunt down every one of your ships, and we are going to make sure that you watch it all happen." Pete stood up from his chair. "You wanted to see what humans are like when they are angry. You wanted to see what we become when someone threatens our families." The image showed the human fleet surrounding the Corvin homeworld, their weapons charging up with deadly energy. "Congratulations," Pete said. "You are about to find out." The transmission ended, leaving the Corvin Command Center in total silence. General Jex Prime looked around at his staff, seeing his own fear reflected in their eyes. For the first time in his long military career, he realized that he had made a mistake that could not be fixed. The aliens had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping for centuries, and now it was too late to put it back to sleep. Outside the windows of the command center, the first human ships began their attack on the orbital stations above the planet. The war was about to enter a new phase, and the Corvins were about to learn what it meant to fight an enemy that had nothing left to lose. The meeting room on the human warship U.S. Retribution was very different from the Grand Alien Council chamber where this all began. The walls were plain gray metal. The chairs were simple and made for function, not beauty. There were no floating lights or fancy decorations. Everything was built for war. Colonel Pete Williams sat at a small table across from the flickering holographic images of the alien leaders. These were the same beings who had laughed at Jake Morrison's warning just 1 year ago, but they were not laughing now. Pete looked older than he had just a few months before. His gray hair had turned almost white, and new lines marked his face. The war had changed him just like it had changed all humans. But his eyes were still sharp and cold as winter ice. "You wanted to negotiate." Kex-9's image buzzed with anger and fear. "Your species has broken every rule of civilized warfare. You have attacked civilian populations. You have destroyed entire planetary systems. You have used weapons that are banned by every treaty in the galaxy." Pete leaned back in his chair and studied the alien faces. He could see the fear in their eyes now. "Good. They should be afraid." "You mean we have been fighting the same way you fought us?" Pete asked calmly. "Interesting how different it feels when someone else does it to you." The crystal Zephyrian's body pulsed with bright, angry light. "We acted to preserve the order of the galaxy. Your species was a cancer that threatened all civilized life." "Civilized?" Pete repeated the word slowly, like he was tasting something bitter. "That is a very interesting word choice." He stood up and walked around the small room. Behind him, the other alien leaders watched nervously. "You know what we used to think," Pete continued. "We used to believe that we were the only monsters in the galaxy. We looked at our own history and saw all the terrible things we had done to each other. The wars, the genocides, the cruelty. We thought that any species smart enough to reach the stars must have evolved beyond such things." Pete stopped walking and looked directly at the aliens. "But you taught us something very valuable. You showed us that we are not uniquely evil. We are just uniquely honest about what we are." "What are you talking about?" demanded Chancellor Viridios, her snake-like body coiling with nervousness. "Every species in this galaxy has done terrible things," Pete explained. "The Corvin hegemony built their empire by enslaving weaker races. The Zephyrians have spent centuries destroying the cultures of conquered peoples, erasing their languages and their histories. The Viridians have strip-mined entire solar systems until nothing was left but dead rocks. He gestured to something. Behind the camera, and images appeared in the holographic display. They showed alien worlds, alien cities, alien families going about their daily lives. The only difference between you and us is that we admit what we are capable of. Humans spent thousands of years learning to control our violent nature. We developed philosophy and ethics and laws specifically designed to keep our dark side in check. More images appeared, showing human cities, human art, human children playing in parks and going to school. We built all of this as proof that we could be better than our worst impulses. Every human alive today comes from people who chose cooperation over conquest, who chose to build rather than destroy, who chose to create beauty instead of spreading pain. The images changed to show the destroyed human colonies, the orbital bombardments, the millions of dead civilians floating in space. But you did not attack our military bases or our government buildings. You did not target our weapons or our defenses. You tried to exterminate us completely. You attacked our children, our artists, our farmers, our teachers. You tried to destroy everything we had built to prove that we were better than our ancestors. Pete's voice grew colder with each word, so we decided to stop trying to be better. We took off the chains that our civilization had spent centuries building. We embraced a part of ourselves that we had been fighting to control since we first learned to make fire. You are talking about genocide, whispered Kex9. No, Pete replied. We are talking about extinction. There is a big difference. Genocide is the systematic killing of a people. Extinction is the complete removal of a species from existence. We are not just going to kill you. We are going to make it so that you never existed at all. The alien leaders looked at each other with growing horror. They had expected the humans to surrender or to fight a normal war with rules and limits. They had not expected this cold, calculated planning for complete annihilation. You cannot be serious, said the Zephyrian delegate. There are trillions of us spread across thousands of worlds. You cannot possibly kill all of you. Pete interrupted. You are right. It would take too long to hunt down every single alien individually, so we have developed more efficient methods. He gestured again, and new images appeared. They showed human scientists working in laboratories, human engineers building strange machines, human mathematicians working on complex equations. We have studied each of your species very carefully, Pete continued. We know your biology, your psychology, your social structures. We know what you eat, how you breathe, what environments you need to survive, and most importantly, we know what you fear most. The images show detailed charts and graphs about each alien species, medical data, population statistics, resource requirements, psychological profiles. The Aquarians need specific tidal patterns to reproduce. We have disrupted the orbital mechanics of their homeworld. Their population will crash within 2 generations, and then they will be extinct forever. Chancellor Viridios made a hissing sound of fear. That is impossible. You cannot move planets. We can when we crash asteroids into them at precisely calculated angles. Pete replied matter-of-factly. It is actually quite simple when you understand orbital mechanics and have enough nuclear explosives. He continued his explanation like he was discussing the weather. The Corvin hegemony depends on a complex network of supply lines to feed their massive population. We have identified the 17 key agricultural worlds that produce most of their food. When we destroy those worlds, billions of Corvins will starve. The Zephyrians are crystalline beings who require specific mineral compounds to maintain their physical structures. We have developed a biological weapon that eats those minerals. One small container released into their atmosphere will dissolve every Zephyrian on a planet within a week. The alien leaders stared at him in shocked silence. This was not the crude violence they had expected from a primitive species. This was scientific, calculated, methodical destruction. But that is not even the worst part, Pete continued. The worst part is that we are going to make you watch. We are going to destroy your civilization slowly, piece by piece, so that you have time to understand what is happening and why. He walked back to his chair and sat down, looking at each alien leader in turn. We are going to start with your outlying colonies, the small settlements and research stations. Then we will move to your industrial worlds, the places where you build your ships and manufacture your goods. After that, we will target your cultural centers, the worlds where you keep your art and your history and your knowledge. Pete's voice became softer, but somehow more terrifying. And finally, when you have lost everything else, when you are huddled on your home worlds with nowhere left to run, we will come for you there, too. Why? Asked Kex9, his voice barely audible. Why not just kill us quickly? Pete looked at him with eyes that held no mercy. Because you need to understand what you did. You need to realize that you brought this on yourselves. You had the chance to treat us as equals. You had the chance to share the galaxy in peace. But you chose to try to exterminate us instead. He stood up again and walked to the window that looked out into space. Outside, hundreds of human warships hung in the darkness like predators waiting to strike. You wanted to see what humans are, like when we get angry, Pete said without turning around. You wanted to see what we become when someone threatens our families and our homes and our children. He finally turned back to face the aliens. Congratulations, you succeeded. You have awakened something that our species spent its entire history trying to keep under control. And now it is too late to put it back to sleep. The communication ended, leaving the alien leaders alone with their fear and their growing understanding of the terrible mistake they had made. They had thought they were fighting primitive barbarians. Instead, they had declared war on a species of sleeping giants who had finally decided to wake up, and now the galaxy would pay the price for that awakening. Captain Amy Richardson stood on the bridge of the UES Absolute Zero and watched the last Corvin battle station explode into pieces. 2 years had passed since the war began, and the galaxy looked completely different now. Where once mighty alien empires had ruled thousands of star systems, now there was mostly empty space and the wreckage of dead civilizations. Amy felt tired in her bones. She had been fighting for so long that she could barely remember what peace felt like. The young woman who had joined the Space Navy to explore new worlds and make friends with alien species was gone. In her place stood a hardened warrior who had seen too much death and destruction. "Captain," said Lieutenant Dan Cooper from his station, "the Corvin Prime system is now under our control. All their military bases have been destroyed or surrendered." He nodded but felt no happiness about the victory. Winning this war had cost humanity something precious that could never be gotten back. They had become everything they had once tried not to be. "What is the status of the other fronts?" she asked. "The Zephyrians gave up 3 months ago. We have moved their surviving population to small worlds under human control. The Viridians were declared extinct last week when their final colony ship was destroyed. The Aquarians are asking us to accept their complete surrender." Amy looked at the tactical display that showed human ships spread across the galaxy. In just 2 years, humanity had gone from a small spacefaring species to the only power that mattered among the stars. But the cost had been enormous. The war had changed, not just the balance of power, but the very nature of human civilization. Earth, once a green and blue world of peaceful cities and parks, was now covered with weapons, factories, and military training centers. Mars had been turned into a giant shipyard where new warships rolled off assembly lines every day. Every human colony had been transformed into a fortress. "Captain," the communications officer interrupted, "we have a message coming from Earth. It is President Robert Chen." Amy straightened up. She had not spoken to the president in months. The last time she had seen him on the news, he had looked much older than his years, worn down by the weight of leading a species through total war. "Put him on the main screen." The display flickered and showed the Oval Office back on Earth. President Chen sat behind his desk, but everything around him had changed. Where once there had been paintings of peaceful landscapes and monuments to human achievement, now the walls were covered with strategic maps and military communications equipment. The president himself looked like a different person. His hair had gone completely gray, and deep lines marked his face. His eyes held the same coldness that Amy had seen in her own reflection lately. "Captain Richardson," he began, his voice heavy with exhaustion, "I am ordering all human fleets to stand down. The Galactic Council has formally surrendered. All alien military forces have been disbanded, and their governments have agreed to our terms. Amy felt a strange mix of relief and something else she could not name. What are our terms, sir? Complete removal of weapons from all alien species, human oversight of all interstellar governments, permanent human military bases in every star system to make sure they obey our rules. The president paused and looked directly at the camera. We are now the rulers of the galaxy. Captain, every alien species that still exists does so only because we allow it. Amy was quiet for a moment. Sir, are we ready for the responsibility of controlling everything? President Chin was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with sadness. No, Captain, we are not ready. But that is not the choice we have anymore. The galaxy forced us to become something we never wanted to be. They woke up a side of humanity that we had spent our entire civilization trying to keep asleep. He gestured to something off camera, and the view expanded to show the scene outside the White House, where once there had been museums and monuments celebrating human culture and achievement. Now there stood military installations and weapon platforms pointing at the sky. We tried to warn them, the president continued. We told them not to make us angry, but they could not understand what that meant. They saw our desire for peace as weakness. They saw our restraint as cowardice. They did not realize that our peaceful nature was not because we could not be violent. It was because we were too good at being violent. Amy thought about her own crew. These were young people who had grown up believing in humanity's potential for good. They had joined the military to protect and explore, not to conquer and destroy. Now they were all veterans of a war that had consumed their entire way of life. What happens now, sir? She asked. Now we try to rebuild. President Chen replied. We try to create a galaxy where this can never happen again. We try to make sure that no species ever again tries to exterminate another one just because they think they are superior. He looked tired as he continued. And we try to remember who we were before the war, even though we can never go back to being that species. Amy looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They had all changed during the war. The bright enthusiasm they once had for exploration and discovery had been replaced by the hard competence of professional soldiers. Sir, she said carefully, what about the alien civilians? The ones who had nothing to do with the decision to attack us. The president's expression became even sadder. They will live under human rule now. We will try to be fair to them, but they will never again have the freedom to threaten other species. Their governments will be chosen by us. Their militaries will be controlled by us. Their expansion into space will be limited by us. Is that justice, sir? I do not know, Captain, he replied honestly. I only know that it is survival. The aliens proved that they cannot be trusted to share the galaxy as equals. They proved that they will try to destroy anyone they see as a threat. So we have made sure they will never again have the power to threaten anyone. The transmission began to fade. As the president prepared to end the call, Captain Richardson, you and your crew have served with honor during the darkest period in human history. You have done things that no human should ever have had to do, and you have ensured that our species will survive. But, sir, Amy said before the connection ended, what kind of species have we become? President Chin looked at her with eyes that held the weight of billions of lives. We have become the kind of species that wins wars, Captain. Whether that makes us better or worse than we were before, history will have to judge. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in silence. Amy looked out at the stars, each one representing worlds that now existed under human control. They had won the war, but the victory felt hollow. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, who was growing up in a world where humans ruled the galaxy through fear and superior firepower. She thought about the alien children on distant worlds, who would grow up knowing that their species existed only because humans allowed it. The war was over, and humanity had won. But in winning, they had lost something essential about themselves. They had been forced to become the very thing they had spent centuries learning not to be. The galaxy was now at peace. But it was the peace of conquest rather than cooperation. It was the silence that comes after the strong have defeated the weak. not the harmony that comes when equals choose to work together. As the human fleet began to disperse to their new roles as galactic peacekeepers, each ship carried with it the burden of what they had become. They were no longer explorers and scientists and diplomats. They were the rulers of the galaxy, and they ruled through strength alone. The aliens had learned too late why humans said never to make them angry. But humanity had learned something, too. They had learned that some victories destroy the winner as much as the loser. They had learned that there are some prices too high to pay, even for survival. The war was over. The galaxy belonged to humanity, and everyone, human and alien alike, would spend the rest of their lives living with the consequences of what had been awakened when the aliens pushed too far in the end. The greatest tragedy was not that the alien civilizations had been conquered. It was that, in conquering them, humanity had been forced to give up their dreams of being something better than their ancestors. The galaxy was theirs now, but the price of that victory would echo through the stars for generations to come.